Do you want a fully ranked Arcane Energize? Do you dislike fighting Eidolons and Orphix? Are you unwilling to drop hundreds or more platinum on one upgrade? Well then, Arcane Dissolution is here to save the day. Maybe. How does it work, and is it really that helpful? I'm the Engineer, let's solve a practical problem. The Whispers of the Wall update has released with a whole bunch of new features, including the Arcane Dissolution mechanic, unlocked after the quest. Speak to Lloyd in the Sanctum Anatomica, the new hub, where you can both dissolve arcanes and select an arcane collection to draw from. Drawing arcanes costs 50,000 credits and 200 Vosfor, the new resource acquired from dissolving arcanes down, regardless of the pack you choose. On drawing, you'll get 3 random arcanes from the possible ones in that pack, including the chance to get duplicates. So what's the best way to get this Vosfor then? Almost all unranked arcanes can be dissolved into Vosfor. If an arcane is ranked up at all, you'll first need to break it down to be able to dissolve it. Arcanes have values ranging from 98 to 12 Vosfor. In general, the rarer the arcane, the more Vosfor it dissolves into. Many arcanes come solely from the vendors in various parts of Warframe. You can buy arcanes from Hock, Onkko, Zuud and Little Duck that you cannot acquire any other way. Yet more can be bought from vendors or required for missions, sold by Cavalero, Archimedean Yonta, Otak, Acrithis and Bird 3. Finally, various arcanes can only be obtained from missions, specifically from Eidolons or Orphix, Arbitrations, Acolytes or Isolation Vaults. For standing-based vendors, you can only obtain so much standing a day to trade with them, and in each case they have specific arcanes which are best to purchase with your limited standing if you choose to go that route. For Onkko, purchase only Magus Vigor or Virtuous Null, giving 1 arcane pack every 42,000 standing. For Cavalero, Cascadia Accuracy will get you 1 pack per 46,000 standing. For Bird 3, Melee Fortification will get you 1 pack per 56,000 standing. For Little Duck, you can take Magus Destruct. For Hock, any of the Gold Exodia arcanes, while for Zuud, all of their arcanes are equally valued. For these 3, you'll get 1 pack per 83,000 standing. This means even a max level player can't get a whole pack's worth of Vosfor per vendor per day, and it's up to you both how quickly you can obtain standing to make these trades and if you even want to do so. You'll probably be better off selling the more desirable arcanes to other players rather than dissolving them. Other vendors don't use standing mechanics, potentially allowing more daily volume. Acrithis sells arcanes for Pathos clamps, though you are limited on how many you can actually buy from her. The most efficient are the legendary Duviri arcanes, worth 84 Vosfor for 20 Pathos clamps, but that's still 2 runs of Duviri for 1 arcane that you'll probably get more value out of keeping or selling, rather than dissolving. When it comes to Otak, trading Belric and Rania crystals, you can get typically 144 of each crystal per 25-minute rotation C run in an efficient group. In addition, you'll average 0.285 arcanes per rotation C. Adding these together, every 25-minute run will average 2.685 arcanes if you pour every crystal into them, earning 155 Vosper per hour or 1.3 hours per pack. Similarly with Archimedean Yonta and the Lure arcanes, you can average 30 Lure Thraxplasm per rotation C in a group on Steel Path Circulus, which trades in at 2 arcanes per 20 minutes on top of 0.363 arcanes per 20 minutes from round rewards. This puts the Lure arcanes at 156 Vosper per hour, again 1.3 hours per pack. If you farm Steel Path's Acolytes, they spawn roughly every 5 minutes, providing an arcane each time worth 20 Vosper, giving you 240 Vosper per hour or 50 minutes per pack. You can also do that alongside the Mirror Defense or Conjunction Survival farms, more than doubling the Vosper per hour you can get from those missions compared to their specific drops only. Arbitrations don't have a normal rotation for drops, instead granting 2 rewards from the A table, 2 from B, then C thereafter, unless you're doing Disruption. A and B rounds offer 15% chance of a 20 Vosper arcane, while C rounds offer 20% of the same. At 5 minutes per round, that means only 44 Vosper in the first hour and just 48 Vosper per hour thereafter. Arbitrations are objectively a terrible farm for Vosper alone. Bear in mind, these arcanes are extras alongside the existing rewards, especially Vitus Essence, so it's much more of a hybrid farm than dumping all your Lure Thraxplasm into arcanes to dissolve. Isolation Vaults and Arcana bounties from Mother on Deimos can award Residual and Theorem arcanes, either 50% of the time from an Isolation Vault, or 50% per bounty stages for the Arcana bounties. All of these arcanes are worth 24 Vosper, which, for the time taken to get them, and the 50% drop rate, is again a low source of Vosfor. For Zariman arcanes, aside from buying them from Cavalero, you can obtain them from Thrax and Angels. On Steel Path, a Dormant Void Angel has a 50% chance of dropping an arcane, while the Thrax have a 10% drop rate. For Exterminate then, with perhaps 5 Thrax and 1 Angel, that's an average of 1 Zariman arcane per mission, worth 22 Vosfor. In a squad, you can maybe do 12 of these an hour for 240 Vosfor per hour. That's doubled to 480 per hour once you include the Acolytes that'll spawn. The new arcanes from Albrecht's lab can be dissolved too, even though they didn't ship with a matching pack to re-obtain them from. However, aside from buying them from Bird 3, these arcanes only drop from the Assassination half the time, from the rather elusive Mocking and Scathing Whispers, or from the very limited Netracells 45% of the time. In fact, the legendary ones are only from the Netracells, with the others worth just 18 or 24 Vosfor. I wouldn't recommend dissolving these at all for the foreseeable future. Which leads us to the final arcane source of note, the Eidolons and Orphix. Orphix are objectively worse at putting out arcanes than Eidolons, mind you. For Eidolons, the Terrorist arcane drops on capture have an average value of 15.7 Vosfor. Gangelist it rises 22.5 Vosfor, and Hydralist it reaches 35.9 Vosfor. That makes a full Tridolon worth 74.1 Vosfor on average, or 1 pack's worth per 2.7 runs. If you ignore the legendary arcanes, as those are the target for a lot of players, then the Vosfor per run comes down to 59.4, or around 1 pack per 3.4 runs. This means a well-equipped individual could turn their unwanted arcanes into additional pack every single night, and a very efficient group may even manage 2 per night. Orphix on the other hand are stingy. Not only do they only drop an arcane on rotation C, which is for dispatching 12 Orphix, you need to complete a set of space-side railjack objectives before going into the ship to fight. Even the most lucrative mission, Erato in the Veil Proxima, only offers an average of 25.8 Vosfor per rotation C, which is itself 12 minutes after boarding the Corpus ship. You would need roughly 8 rotation C rewards, nearly 3 entire runs, for a single pack's worth of Vosfor. That's about 2 hours a pack, worse than nearly any other method I've mentioned so far. So how good is it actually to receive all this Vosfor? Well, that brings me on to a sorry bit of news. DE is withholding that information. At the time of writing this, we are missing drop tables for all the arcane packs. Not just missing, I've asked specifically about them, and the drop tables are not being released at this time. We get to know what's available, but not at what rates. These aren't the only tables missing. The bounty tables for all 5 bounties with the Caviar are currently missing. Going further back to the release of Cavalero, the tables for the Undercroft portals that award various arcanes are also still missing. So that's a bit of an issue which could really do with not continuing. For the present, it means I cannot give you a precise comparison of how the 7 packs fare compared to the natural farms of those arcanes. I can't give you specific average Vosfor values per pack without those drop rates. What I can do is give you the limits and make some educated assumptions within those limits. Each of the Holdfast, Necrolisk and Steel Path packs all only contain arcanes of identical Vosfor value. This means each of those packs has a guaranteed Vosfor value, 66, 72 and 60 respectively. You lose about 2/3 of the Vosfor value when buying those packs. Given the same values for Vosfor, they may all be identical drop rates for each arcane in those packs. However, the natural sources for those arcanes are not equally weighted, so that may be untrue. For the other 4 packs, they have a mix of arcane Vosfor values. The Ostra and Solaris packs may give you as low as 36 Vosfor worth of arcanes in a pack if you roll only the lowest ones. While the Duviri pack minimum is 54, and the Eidolon one is a minimum of 42. However, these packs can give more, with the maximum Vosfor value for an Ostron and Solaris pack being 72, while the Duviri pack has a max of 252, and the Eidolon pack a max of 294 Vosfor value. These are huge ranges, and in all likelihood are very far from evenly distributed. If the actual Eidolon drop tables are anything to go by, worth an average of 73 Vosfor across 3 arcane drops, we can anticipate a similar average for the Eidolon arcane pack. The Duviri pack though, it could really be higher or lower. The arcanes in it come from either disconnected or unpublished drop tables, giving only limited information to go on. That one is for now a completely blind gamble. Which brings me to my final takeaways on all of the Arcane Dissolutions. If you want to farm for Vosfor, I'd recommend doing so on Steel Path Zariman missions. Not only do you collect Void Plumes for standing, you also have arcane drops during the mission from Thrax, Angels, and from Acolytes, boosted by the mod drop booster innate to Steel Path. This seems to be about the best rate of Vosfor you can achieve, and by quite the margin. For a more passive farm, continue playing the game on the Steel Path, facing Acolytes as they spawn. Every 10 Acolytes you kill is another pack of arcanes from your choice of the 7 packs. Given this can be done alongside the majority of content in Warframe, once you're on that level, this is likely to be your best source of Vosfor. The wider ramifications for the market remain to be seen. Acolyte arcanes have risen in price, and I anticipate will rise to a point more befitting of the sheer power they give, rather than the frequency with which they drop. After all, being able to trade a max primary dexterity for what's likely the equivalent of 2 Tridolons worth of arcanes is a trade many would make. However, for expensive arcanes, Eidolon arcanes especially, those prices have not only tumbled, but will likely stay down massively. While the rates may not seem amazing at first, 10 Acolytes equals 1 Tridolon's worth of arcanes per player. I imagine there are a substantial number of people running Steel Path for hours, collecting arcanes that otherwise would have had no use. If the drops are truly similar, making a single Eidolon pack average 5% of an Energize for example, then 350 hours of Steel Path would average to having maxed out every single legendary arcane. Sure, that's 4,200 Acolyte kills, which is a lot for a single person to do, but players are doing it anyway, all across the game. Kuva and Relic packs got limited in the Steel Essence shop because players are farming these Acolytes that hard. In addition, along the way, you can remelt down unwanted arcanes you get from the packs, and you can throw in extra arcanes from places like the Zariman. That combined can reduce the total time from 350 hours down to less than 150 potentially. The exact time taken to max out all interesting arcanes will naturally vary from person to person, depending on luck, efficiency, and which arcanes you're happy to give up. Further still, even those who farm Eidolons can recuperate some of the lost value. Those extra arcanes, the ones that just do not shift quickly on the market, now can be melted down to for more shots of the more impressive arcanes. So while we may not know the exact rate, we can say for certain that it's going to make the cheapest arcanes more expensive and the priciest arcanes cheaper, much like turning prime parts into ducats. All of this makes arcanes more accessible, both for players who stick to themselves and players who engage in trading with others. I've put together more in-depth information reviewing these changes over on Patreon and discuss this and more Warframe topics in depth live on Twitch. The links for both of those are in the description. That's all from me for now, so as always, farm arcanes, roll packs, and fight well, Tenno.